Specific performance of contract. Specific performance of contract. Specific performance is equitable relief given by a court in case of breach of contract in the form of a judgment that the defendant is to actually perform the contract according to its term and stipulation term and stipulation. A contract according to the Indian Contract Act is in agreement enforceable by law. From every contract there immediately and directly result in obligation on each of the contracting party toward the other to perform such of the term of the contract as he has undertaken to perform, and if the person on whom this obligation rests failing to discharge it, they result in morality to the other party right at this election either to insist on the actual performance of the contract or to obtain satisfaction for the non-performance of it. In obligation include every duty enforceable by law. In obligation include every duty enforceable by law. Consequently, whenever a man come under a liability to do or forbear from doing anything, he remain under in obligation. This liability may be a consequence of either a contract or a talk. In obligation to forbear is a positive duty generally imposed by a contract. This form of the specific relief is described as the specific performance of contract. Section 9. Defense respecting defense respecting suit. Defense respecting suit for brief based on contract. Defense respecting suit for brief based on contract. Defense respecting suit for relief relief based on contract, except as otherwise provide herein, where any relief is claimed under this chapter in respect of a contract, the person against whom the relief is claimed may play played by way of defense any ground which is available to him under any law related to contract. Defense under law of contracts. Section 9 of the Specific Relief Act 1963 provide that except as provided in the chapter 2nd section 9 to 25. Section 9 to 25, all defense open under the law of contract shall be open to a defendant where any relief is claimed under this chapter in respect of a contract. Defense that are available under the law of contract, such as incapacity of party, the uncertainty of a contract corrosion, uncertainty of the contract corrosion, under corrosion, COERCION, corrosion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation, mistake, etc., have all been dealt with in the Indian Contract Act. This section avoid their petition in the Specific Relief Act. This it is necessary that the contract in question could be valid and enforceable. The Supreme Court refused to grant the relief of specific performance where the contract was in a alternative form and one form had failed to materialize and the other was void, being not enforceable by vi Virtue, virtu, virtue of uncertainty. Full stop. It was a contract of sale stipulating that if the co-seller failed to sign the sale deed, then the principal seller would execute a deed of their sealed sell deed of her sell deed of her own on one of two share one of two share one of two share government contract it has been held that government contract which is concluded without fulfilling the requirement prescribed by article 299 of the constitution of india cannot be specially enforced validity of the original contract. Validity of original contract in a suit for specific performance. The subsequent purchaser challenger the contention that the original contract to sell was fiction and not genius, but the suit was degree, ultimately degree ultimately degree it was held that the appellate court first appellate court ought to have considered the evidence and recorded its own finding as to whether the original agreement was true and valid. The defense that the purchase was made bona fide bona fide for consideration without notice of the earlier agreement for sale would have to be proved by the second purchaser. This defense can be this defense can this defense can be defeated this defense can be defeated by showing that a notice of the cell was given to him, where the only evidence of prior notice was a copy of in application appearing to be ensured endorsed by the sub registrar sub-registrar REGI REGISTRAR registrar sub-registrar, but there was no corresponding record or entry in the record of the sub-registrar. It was held that such an application would not be constitute prior notice. Sub-registrar and endorse endorsed by the sub REGI registrar registrar sub-register, but there was corresponding record or entry in the record of the sub-registrar. It was held that such an application would not be constitute prior notice. यानी कि सब रजिस्ट्रार REGISTRAR रजिस्ट्रार यानी कि डिले हैज ए ग्राउंड ऑफ डिफेंस अंडर लॉ ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट अंडर लॉ ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट अंडर लॉ ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हो गया अंडर लॉ ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट अंडर लॉ ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हो गया अंडर लॉ ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट अंडर लॉ ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट अंडर लॉ ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हो गया। उसके बाद सेक्शन 10 क्या कहता है? सेक्शन 10 कहता है सेक्शन 10 ऑफ द स्पेसिफिक रिलीफ एक्ट emulate whose case in which the specific performance of the contract can be enforced 10 section, case in which specific performance of contract is enforceable इनफोर्सेबल क्या कहता है? इनफोर्सेबल टेक्स्ट सेक्शन 10 क्या कहता है? केस इन विच स्पेसिफिक परफॉर्मेंस ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट इनफोर्सेबल except as otherwise provided in this chapter. The specific performance of any contract may in the discretion of court may be enforced. Discretion, dis CRETION, discretion of the court be enforced. यानी कि टेक्स्ट 10 क्या कहता है? सेक्शन 10 कहता है स्पेसिफिक रिलीफ एक्ट 1963 सेक्शन 10 कहता है केस इन विच स्पेसिफिक परफॉर्मेंस ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट इनफोर्सेबल ये था 10 सेक्शन 10 था यह स्पेसिफिक रिलीफ एक्ट सेक्शन 10 यानी कि कॉन्ट्रैक्ट विच आर स्पेशली enforceable. Section 10 where no other suitable remedy valid contract in existence contract not existed by degree exist guide by degree by passing of degree for specific performance does not agreement for reconvencing or repurchase agreement for reconvencing or repurchase in agreement to repurchase property which has been sold properly known as agreement for reconvencing has been held to be specially enforceable referring to such in agreement in a P Panchmutha versus Supreme Court of India delay unreasonable delay by a plaintiff in performing this part of the contract operate has a bar to this obtain specific performance provide that specific performance provide that the legal action initiated by the appellate plaintiff was rightly held by the trial court and the first appellate court to have been commenced without delay and definitely within a reasonable time shall by joint honor the Supreme Court propounded the following proposition where any property is held jointly section 11 specific performance of contract section 11 case in which specific performance of contract connected with trust enforceable 1 except as otherwise provided in this act specific performance of a contract may in the discretion 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 of the court by enforce when the act agreed to be done is in the performance wholly or party of a trust